Welcome, dear viewers, to the Tale Collective, where every tale comes to life, and each story takes you on an unexpected journey. Tonight, we step into a gripping narrative that will have you holding your breath, suspenseful, thought-provoking, and full of powerful lessons. This is a story about power, prejudice, and the heavy consequences of one man's actions. So, get comfortable, grab a warm blanket, settle in, and allow us to transport you into a world where one fateful mistake changes everything. The scene opens with a book flipping open, its pages turning rapidly as the sound of the wind howls in the background. Then, we transition smoothly into the first act. It was a cool Tuesday evening in the ever-bustling city of Crestwood. The streets pulsed with life. Cars honking, pedestrians chatting, and the occasional wail of a police siren piercing through the urban chaos. Among the officers on patrol that night was Officer Jake Thompson, a man known for his tough, no-nonsense attitude, but also, unfortunately, for his deeply ingrained prejudices. As he navigated the streets in his cruiser, his sharp eyes scanned his surroundings. There was a certain look of boredom, mixed with quiet disdain on his face. Jake had spent years reinforcing his biased worldview, believing his opinions were not only right but justified. His colleagues had tried, time and time again, to reason with him, to show him a different perspective. But Jake, he was as stubborn as they came. In his mind, the world was divided into black and white, both literally and figuratively. Then his radio crackled to life, a call breaking the monotony of his patrol. All units, be advised. There's a reported disturbance at 5th and Maple. Approach with caution. Jake sighed deeply, rolling his eyes. Probably another bunch of troublemakers, he muttered under his breath, already assuming the worst. Without hesitation, he flipped on his sirens and sped towards the scene. When Jake pulled up, the scene was chaotic. A crowd gathered on the sidewalk, voices raised. Tension thick in the air. At the center of it all stood a tall, broad-shouldered man in a sharp suit, his posture strong yet composed. He was trying to calm the situation, speaking with a quiet authority that immediately caught Jake's attention. Something about this man felt different. Jake didn't recognize him, but instinctively, his guard went up. Without thinking twice, he stepped out of his cruiser, his hand instinctively resting on his holstered gun. "All right, break it up. What's going on here?" Jake barked, his voice laced with authority. The suited man turned, meeting Jake's gaze with an expression that was both calm and unwavering. "Officer, there's no need for that. I've got this under control," the man said firmly. Jake's eyes narrowed. Something about the confidence in this man's voice made him uneasy. "And who exactly are you?" Jake demanded, crossing his arms. The man reached into his pocket. Jake's hand tensed slightly on his weapon, but instead of anything threatening, the man pulled out a badge. Captain Marcus Reynolds, Crestwood Police Department. Jake's heart skipped a beat. Captain Reynolds? Even though Jake had never met him in person, he knew exactly who this man was, a legend within the department, widely respected for his integrity and leadership. The kind of man who commanded authority simply by existing. For a split second, Jake hesitated, but then his pride flared up. He wasn't about to let anyone, captain or not, undermine his authority. "Captain or not, I'm in charge of this scene," Jake snapped, his voice carrying a slight waver. Captain Reynolds simply raised an eyebrow. "Officer Thompson, is it? I strongly suggest you stand down. This situation does not require your involvement." Jake's face flushed red. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone he had already made assumptions about. Then, in a reckless moment, his anger took control. He stepped forward and shoved Captain Reynolds aside. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Captain Reynolds stumbled, but quickly regained his footing. He straightened his suit, his expression unreadable, but his steely gaze locked onto Jake like a razor-sharp knife. "That was a mistake, officer," Reynolds said, his voice as firm as steel. What happened next was a blur. Backup arrived. The situation de-escalated, but the damage? It was already done. Within hours, Jake's reckless actions spread like wildfire. The media got hold of the footage, and suddenly, his face was plastered across every news channel. Headlines screamed, "Racist cop assaults black police captain. Calls for investigation grow." Overnight, Jake became the poster child for everything wrong with law enforcement. His colleagues distanced themselves. The public demanded action, and the department? They had no choice but to launch an internal investigation. Captain Reynolds, on the other hand, didn't retaliate. Instead, he used the incident as a catalyst for change, pushing for police reform, better training, and stricter accountability. Meanwhile, Jake's entire world collapsed. Suspended without pay, publicly shamed. His wife left him, taking their kids with her. For the first time in his life, Jake was alone. One evening, as he sat in his dark, empty home, a knock at the door startled him. He opened it to find Captain Reynolds standing there. "Can we talk?" the captain asked. Jake hesitated, but then, for the first time, he listened. Reynolds shared his own struggles, his experiences with racism, his hopes for change. And as Jake listened, his hardened heart finally cracked. By the end of the conversation, Jake was in tears. He realized how wrong he had been, how deeply his prejudices had hurt others. And for the first time ever, he apologized, not just to Captain Reynolds, but to everyone he had wronged. The road to redemption wasn't easy. Jake had to earn back trust of his colleagues, his community, and himself. He attended sensitivity training, volunteered with organizations fighting racial injustice, and even became an advocate for police reform. And Captain Reynolds? Seeing Jake's genuine change, he offered him a second chance. "Everyone deserves an opportunity to grow," Reynolds said. "But it's up to you to prove you've changed." And Jake did. He became a better officer, a better man, a better ally. He knew he could never erase the past. But from that moment on, he vowed to fight for a better future. Thank you for joining us on the Tale Collective. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful narratives. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep exploring the stories that shape our world.